Hello and welcome into the second episode of Sideline Vision. I'm your host, Nick Rampe. I'm joined by my co-host, Wellemeyer, and also, for the first time, we're joined by our fellow co-host, Reece Leddy. Reece, I'll start with you. How are you doing?
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. And of course, Wellemeyer, how about you?
It's a Wednesday, let's just say that.
It is a Wednesday. I mean, we're not starting from the jump, but that's good.
It is a Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday. So to start us off with discussion, we're going to, of course, as always, start it off with instant replay, looking back at what you might have missed in Belmont sports this week. And really who had the biggest weekend, in my opinion, my completely, of course, unbiased opinion, is volleyball. They started off Friday going to Vanderbilt, playing an outdoor game on the Wyatt Lawn. It was Vanderbilt's first home game in 45 years. Really just the atmosphere was incredible. Outdoor game, night game, under the lights. Fans were eating it up. Crazy crowd. Pyrotechnics, scoreboards up by the sides. It was the whole 9 yards, really. And it was a very competitive match. Belmont did end up losing 3-1. However, it really looked like they might have made a late push. They lost the first two sets. In the first, they kind of got down early. In the second one, they kind of lost it late. Third one, they come back and win. I believe it was 25-17 or 18. It was fairly convincing. And then in the fourth and final set, once again, Vanderbilt kind of went on a late run. Belmont actually had the lead, but was unable to come away with it. And then one last little note about it was Coach Fritz Rosenberg's first game as a volleyball coach. I was able to interview him after. Very kind, he was just he was as in love with the atmosphere as I was. The guy loves volleyball. He was super excited about what it meant for volleyball and women's sports in Nashville. So that was very cool. And then Saturday, he was able to pick up his first win at Belmont against Seton Hall, 3-1. And then they swept UT Martin on Sunday.
Yeah, that's something, Nick, that I think we talked about last week was if you're Belmont Volleyball, you want to go 2-1, even 3-0 this weekend. And credit to Fritz Rosenberg and his team, they definitely accomplished that feat. They didn't give in against Seton Hall. Seton Hall actually won that first set, and Belmont didn't quit. They kept fighting, and they persevered and won the next 3 sets to win. And then that game against UT Martin, they just controlled the tempo, controlled the pace, controlled the momentum. They controlled everything throughout all 3 sets, and they swept them. So all in all, a pretty successful weekend. They didn't let the emotions of Friday get to them. And I think it's great to see. I think it's great momentum for Fritz Rosenberg heading into this weekend.
Yeah, and we'll get into this a little later, but really it should be another great weekend of volleyball.
You would hope.
We live in hopes. So we're going to swing it over to Reece, talk about men's and women's soccer.
So first off, men's soccer this week played Harvard on Friday. Harvard's about 40 minutes from where I live, so I wish I could have watched it there. But, things happen, and you go to Belmont. So, yeah, on Friday they beat Harvard only by 1-0. But Brock Kuiper was the player of the game, in my opinion. I mean, he was the one who scored off in the 61st minute to get Belmont their win against Harvard. This was actually the first ever match between the schools. Fun fact. And now Kuiper, with that 1 goal in the game, has now 10 career goals. Then Tuesday, Belmont tied against Bellarmine. Senior midfielder Brad Dildy assisted on a goal in consecutive matches, which recorded his 15th career assist, and he also tied Dylan Steely, the big dog on the men's soccer team.
Big dog,
big bear.
Big dog Dylan
too. With the team high of 5 assists. So good game for him. Honestly, really good season so far for the men's soccer team. Haven't lost a game yet. Sure, they've tied a game, but they're 3-0-1 right now.
That's positive.
That's an unbeaten record.
Yeah, I can't ask for more except for maybe 4-0, but 3-0-1 we take.
Then women's soccer, they tied 0-0 against Lindenwood on Sunday, but Sydney Jones, this is her 3rd straight shutout, which is just
crazy.
It's
crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I obviously couldn't do that. Stop a soccer ball from going into the net. I'd get 50 on me, I think.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's
we're
why
talking about
I'm
it.
talking right
Yeah, that's why we talk about.
That's why I'm not playing. But this makes Belmont currently ranked 11th in the nation for shutout percentages with a 750, which is not a bad, really good thing to look at. 6 shots on target out of 11 shots from the last game. So, very accurate kickers, just didn't get one in to win the game. But hey, we'll take the tie and we'll take those stats.
And it shows an aggressive play style too. It's not that they're not getting opportunities, maybe they're not fully capitalizing, but you'd rather have a lot of missed shots than no shots at all.
That's the thing about soccer that can make it such a frustrating sport to watch is that everything goes well on the pitch. You have 11 shots, 6 shots on target. You just can't convert any of them, and you end in a 0-0 tie despite maybe you playing considerably better than the other team, which it seems like maybe they did a shutout, 6 shots on target. So just a frustrating day. So Belmont Cross Country, men's and women's, had their opener on Friday at 8:45 a.m. at Percy Warner Park. It was a pretty good appearance for both teams. Men's placed first in the season opener. They had 5 of the top 6 finishes, so absolutely dominant performance from that team. Women's placed second overall. They lost to Vanderbilt by, I think, 5 points. But freshman Sophie Nichols from England placed first overall, which is a pretty good sign because Belmont Cross Country lost a lot of talent from last season. Caitlin Vanderkolk was unreal. I covered her. And losing her leaves a big hole, but seems like they have some good talent in the reserves to run right now.
Yeah, and that's really, I feel like that's so far been the story of just Belmont sports is, we've lost a lot of big names being a mid-major school, but we're still bringing up young talent that's really coming in and really having an instant impact.
No doubt. And that's the great thing about Belmont is they always seem to find someone who can step up and prove themselves when needed.
Now, looking ahead for the future focus segment, I'm going to be taking volleyball again. Big weekend, smaller schools, but they really have an opportunity to continue to build on their momentum. They play Friday at 10 against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then they play Nicholls State also on Friday. That's in the afternoon, so they have 2 matches that day, and then they play Tennessee State on Saturday. So obviously a bunch of games, some smaller schools, but the combined record of these 3 teams is 3-6, and the only team with even one win is Nicholls State, and they're 3-0. So, you would hope against teams like Arkansas Pine Bluff and Tennessee State, coming off a hot weekend, you'd be able to win.
I feel like part of me is thinking that Belmont has to go 3-0 this weekend. If they don't, would it be seen as a disappointment?
It's hard to say disappointment this early in the season even. And I'm not sure really campus-wide, I suppose, how high expectations were coming into this year. I'd say hopes were high. Expectations and hopes can be different. But regardless, I think based on what we've seen, like I mentioned, they were very competitive with Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt was very competitive with Kansas, who's a very good team. So obviously they don't always correlate directly that way, but based on what we've seen, you would expect to be 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Nicholls State's competition, it was mostly other HBCUs, and those schools are not known as volleyball powerhouses. I'll just say it. So you would think Belmont, having played 3 harder schools last weekend, would come into this weekend and say, okay, we feel confident that we can go 3-0, but then again, would that be the right mindset to have? Could you fall into the trap of underestimating your opponents, and then you're looking at 2-1, 1-2 on the weekend, and that may not be great come tournament time with these losses on the resume.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about expectations last week of coming out of the Vanderbilt game into other games. Really liked what I saw and the way they bounced back from that season opening loss. I really do think they're kind of on the best track possible to win these games.
Without a doubt.
All right, and then Reese, what do we got coming up in soccer this week?
So women's soccer is going to be at home. They've been on the road for 2 games in a row now. So it's going to be their home opener, not home opener, but their first home game in a bit. And they're playing Thursday against Eastern Kentucky, which is an old Ohio Valley Conference rival, if you want to stir up some kind of pot that's not really there.
We'll pretend like it is.
Heated rival.
We'll pretend that it is.
Eastern
Heated
Kentucky
rival.
versus Belmont. It gets bloody in those bleachers. Hey, Eastern Kentucky, tough opponent that they're going against. They're 4-1. Their last match against Morehead State, Eastern Kentucky won 5-1. Belmont has not really had that kind of performance yet this season. They're 2-1-1, which isn't a bad start to the season, but I haven't seen those numbers from Belmont, and it seems like Eastern Kentucky is going to be pretty high foe this week. So they have 9 total matchups with Eastern Kentucky and tied the last match, but in terms of overall record, Belmont's only beaten Eastern Kentucky twice, And the last time they beat Eastern Kentucky, I was in 4th grade learning about my state's capitals. So, we'll see how that goes.
That feels to me like maybe one of the first big challenges of the season. 4-1, like Reece said, they have a pretty powerful offense, which we haven't really seen from Belmont. I feel like Sidney Jones is going to be key to this. The 3 consecutive shutouts. Can the defense hold up? And can that offense maybe break out like we know they can? So, yeah, like Reece said, big matchup to really see if Belmont can prove itself.
Yeah, and the offensive volume for Belmont has been there. They just haven't been able to put it in the net. But, I mean, it'll be interesting, but with both these teams' play styles, this really could turn into a shootout.
No doubt.
Bruins are going to be back on the bus Sunday, going down to Birmingham to face UAB. They've had 3 total matchups in their history of programs. Belmont has not won against UAB ever in those 3 matches. They have had 1 loss and 2 ties. So maybe we could get a 3rd tie, or maybe, just maybe, that first win against UAB. I think that would be a nice thing to wrap up the week this Sunday.
I mean, we just talked about with Eastern Kentucky. It's kind of a prove-it game.
Now, we'll still stick on soccer, just the men's side of the coin. They're going to Northern Kentucky this Saturday to face the Norse. I like that name.
What a great
Northern
nickname.
Kentucky Norse. I like that. But 5 total matchups. Last matchup took place last season. The Bruins won, so I don't know how similar the rosters seem from last year to this year for their team, but hopefully their coaches and coaching staff can kind of remember the kind of soccer they played last season and trying to take some notes from last season.
You would hope.
You would hope.
You would hope.
All right, and now to our last Belmont segment. Last week, me and Ty answered the question, who has been our favorite athlete we've watched at Belmont while we've been here? Reece was not with us. He now is. So, Reece, why don't you talk a little bit about your favorite Belmont athlete?
So last year, I covered Belmont's baseball program pretty much in its entirety last season. Before that, I didn't really follow a lot of Belmont sports. I would go to the basketball games, and that was pretty much it for me until sophomore year. But I followed the baseball team, and I really grew liking to Joe Rizuka, the right-handed pitcher, junior right-handed pitcher. Last season, he had a really good season. He went 9-6 starting. Highest innings pitched were 8. He had 9 strikeouts against Indiana State last season. That was a season high. His career high is 10 strikeouts, but 9. I saw that. I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. I'm really hoping he stays because he's a junior,
Yeah.
You would hope that he stays for the next season. He was a 2025 All-NBC first team, 2025 NBC Pitcher of the Year. I was hoping he stayed for this next season. We have Ethan Harden going to Auburn. We've got Will Pryor going to Kentucky. And when I saw those news, I'm like, that's bad. Those guys are really good. We need those guys for depth. But hopefully Joe Rizuka stays. He's a junior. He'll be here for senior year. And then maybe we'll have a really good season this next season in terms of pitching. But no, he gets drafted to the Detroit Tigers in the 16th round, the 489th pick of the draft. So Joe Rizuka, really, really good guy on the mound. Very quiet guy. Didn't talk a lot, but he talked a lot on the mound in terms of stats and showing up. The pitching staff, or not the pitching staff, but the pitching, I guess the players in the pitching staff.
Like a rotation?
Like a rotation. Players in rotation. There'd be some guys you get in there and be like, I don't think they're going to get the job done. But every time he's up in the mound, I'm like, something's about to get done. He's about to get this batter off home plate. Like, something's going to happen.
Yeah, drafted in the 16th round by my beloved Detroit Tigers. Now, he wasn't my personal pick, but, if he comes up quickly and I get to watch him play for the Tigers, I think he'll become my favorite Belmont athlete real quick.
Reece, something you said reminded me of what Nick said about Maya Johnson, because Nick said Maya Johnson was his favorite Belmont athlete. The fact that when they both got up on that mound, you knew they'd get the job done. You weren't worried about the rest of the team. You knew they were going to shut down their opponent, and that you were probably going to see a Belmont win. So, I mean, I know Joe a little bit. I talked to him. Really nice guy, really quiet, let his pitching do the talking, like you said. So, glad to see that he's in the MLB and he's getting to live out his dreams. Of course, you'd love to see him represent Belmont another year, but you can't fault a guy for taking the MLB, which is probably his dream.
Yeah.
So, for our last segment, it's a bit of a two-parter. We're starting off with college football, game of the week. For this game, we've chosen Michigan going to number 18 Oklahoma. That's number 15 ranked Michigan, I might add, going on the road to number 18 Oklahoma. Ty, what are you seeing and who you got?
what I'm seeing is two revamped programs from last year. Oklahoma had a very, very down year. Last year they went 6-7. Nothing really seemed to click offensively or defensively, dare I say. So they revamped their entire offense. They got John Mateer from Washington State. They got Ben Arbuckle, who was the offensive coordinator at Washington State. So they're really leaning in on a whole new high-flying offense. Michigan had a disappointing season. I guess you could say 8-5 is disappointing for a program in Michigan's uh, brass coming off a national championship season in 2024. So basically, Michigan now has the number one recruit in the country at Bryce Underwood starting at quarterback. I didn't love how they looked against New Mexico. I thought they just looked okay. Oklahoma's favored by 5.5. I think it'll be a close game, but give me Oklahoma. Give me the experience at quarterback, and I think it's going to be crazy there in Norman. So give me the Oklahoma Sooners.
I agree with most of what you said. I will say, though, I was impressed by Underwood specifically.
He did play well.
For his first game as a true freshman, it was very impressive. I would not be surprised if he outduels Mateer in this game. But I'm also going with Oklahoma. Michigan just kind of showed a lot of cracks that it didn't come back to bite them against a team like New Mexico. A team like Oklahoma, much more likely to take advantage of those mistakes. They got fooled on this fake field goal where they just snapped it straight through the guy's legs and throw over the top. And not that you expect to see that coming per se, but it's just the kind of thing that you can allow that. You can allow a team like New Mexico to steal that from you. You cannot let anything close to that happen against Oklahoma. And so I'm also going with Oklahoma at home.
Yeah, I'm also going with Oklahoma.
Give me Oklahoma.
Give me the Sooners.
Not so fast.
Yeah, not so fast. I do agree with you though.
They haven't had a series game. This is the first game in what? It says almost 49 years. They last played in 1976.
Oh my gosh.
It was a tie.
Michigan and Oklahoma?
Michigan and Oklahoma have never beat each other. One of them's going to do it.
One of them has to win this game.
And who do you think is going to be Reece?
I'm going to take the underdog pick. I think I'm going to take Michigan at number 15.
Okay.
Underdog. I think a lot of people are leaving them out. I know they're leaving out of the postseason and all those money and earnings, but you know what? Let's take Michigan.
All right.
I mean, did someone say 1976 though? Nick Rampe. That was my mom's birthday.
We can't do this again. We cannot do this again.
Reece wasn't here for that. Okay, I just wanted to say.
That's good. That's good. That threw me off. I was like, 1976. And then for our NFL game of the week, Michigan and Oklahoma may not have played since the 70s. These two teams play twice a year, every year. It's the Lions and the Packers. And first off, before we get into the game, it didn't come up during our last podcast because it happened after recording, but Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. How do we feel?
Words cannot describe my true feelings about this trade, in that Jerry Jones basically gave up probably one of, if not the best defensive players in the league for Kenny Clark, who's good, and 2 first-round picks. The problem is with these first-round picks is that Green Bay is probably going to be really good for the next 5 years, let's just say. You're going to probably get those picks in the late 20s. You're probably not going to get a talent of Micah Parsons' caliber in those late picks. I just don't get it. And then they paid Deron Bland 4 years, $92 million. So why were you just not willing to give that money to Micah Parsons on top of what you offered him? Just confusion all around on the behalf of Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, on Dallas's end, the whole situation is really pretty indefensible. And I do think they could have gotten a worse return. I do really think Kenny Clark is a great player up the middle. But that being said, it's just, complete mismanagement. That being said, on the Packers' end, does this improve their pass rush? Yes, by a lot. That's undeniable.
I think they need that with the division they're in.
They need it with the division they're in. They need it with the secondary they have. I was looking at this the other day for something else. Just listen to some of these names in the secondary. Xavier McKinney, great
player.
After that, Isaiah McDuffie, Keyshawn Nixon, Evan Williams, Nate Hobbs, Javon Bullard. Stop me when you hear a name you've heard ever. You know what I mean?
I will raise you Nate Hobbs played for the Raiders,
He did.
I think 3 years ago, and it was because everyone said he was horrible.
Yeah,
You want me to give my opinion on the Micah Parsons trade?
I would
You can.
love
I
if you
think-
did that.
I think Jerry Jones is the best GM the Philadelphia Eagles have ever had.
Exactly.
I think anyone in the NFC East loves having the Cowboys in their division because apparently, according to Jerry Jones, it's a soap opera, and he's got to keep things interesting, which means he's got to keep the Cowboys 8-9 every season. So, honestly, good for Micah Parsons. I feel like with the relationship between you and your owner, if your owner's not valuing you as the star player that you clearly are, I know there's a lot of I me in the NFL that goes around right now. Where we saw this with Terry McLaurin and the Commanders wanted more money because the team was getting better. Personally, I think he just should have just kept getting paid what he was getting paid, stopped causing problems for his team, take the cut. But Micah Parsons obviously deserves that. I mean, he obviously deserves to negotiate and stay with the team that he wants to stay with. He was even willing to cut back to stay on the Cowboys. For whatever reason, Jerry Jones doesn't want a force like that on his team, and it really mind boggles me that there's someone in charge who just can push away a guy like that.
Well, Reese, Jerry Jones likes the pain.
He did say that.
He said he likes the pain of being a GM.
And the most confounding thing to me, and Ty brought this up, but I feel like it needs to be harped on more. You paid Deron Bland. Why would you pay Deron Bland over Micah Parsons? You gave a guy who, granted, did have a historic season, but like Micah Parsons is an every down game changer. Deron Bland, even with the record, that's 6 pick sixes in a season. That's 6 plays, 6 game changing plays. Sure, Micah Parsons I've seen make 6 game changing plays a week. So that's what doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why Jerry Jones chooses to pay who he does and why he chooses not to pay. That being said, that's all in the past. That trade that happened last week,
Forget about it.
Let's bring it back to this week. I almost said Sunday Night Football, but it's a mid-Sunday game.
Even better.
Even better. It may very well be America's game of the week.
I think it is America's game of the week.
That checks out.
By who? The network executives.
Exactly. It's Lions at Packers. You know what, Reese? We've been finishing with you. Who do you think takes this game?
Well, the Lions have a lot of their defense back. They've had a lot of injured players last season, and it kind of makes it tricky to think like, oh, well, their defense wasn't that great last year. I don't know if they can hold the Packers this year. But literally almost every single player that was good on their defense just wasn't playing because they were injured. Yeah. Now they got it all back. But Ben Johnson's not with the Lions anymore. He's now coaching the Bears. They got a new offensive coordinator, John Morton, who did some wide receiver coaching work with the Broncos from 2023 to 2024. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Lions. I like the Lions. I love that team right now. They're a really fun team to root for. I think everyone wants to root for the Lions right now. I just don't think – I think it's going to be a close game, but I don't think the Lions are going to get. I'm going to go with the Packers.
Ty, how about you?
Reese brought up a good point about the new offense. When I hear Broncos wide receiver coach, I think of the excellence of Cortland Sutton and no one else. But like Reese also said, that defense is now healthy. I think that was something that held the Lions back in the playoffs. You had no Hutchinson. It felt just like everyone important on the Lions defense was in a hospital bed or on the IR. That being said, the Packers, I like Jordan Love in some aspects. Maybe I love Jordan Love. Haha, little wordplay there. Josh Jacobs was good. But Nick, you named that secondary. I don't believe in any of those players other than Xavier McKinney.
Me neither.
And I think the Lions wide receivers are so good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta at tight end, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery as that running back duo. I think the Lions come in here. It will be a very close game. I think both offenses are really, really good. I just think the Lions probably have a better defense. Even with the Micah Parsons deal, give me the Lions by like 3.
I think the Lions defense is certainly more complete, at least currently. Now, you guys were preaching to the choir. As a Lions fan, I have thought so much about how injuries decimated our defense. At one point, we had 16 defensive players on IR, 21 total players.
How did you even feel the defense?
I'm not sure. They were pulling guys out. I'm like, I don't know this guy. And now he's got his name on the back of a jersey.
Could you have gotten on the Lions if that was the case?
there's nothing that can ever happen that will make that happen. But
What about like the replacements? Like everyone goes on strike,
okay,
and
maybe
you
if
have to.
goes on strike and then the strikers go on strike, and that happens about 4 or 5 more times, I might get picked up by like the Browns. But
What do you get, like place kicker?
yeah, I'll be like, I can hold. So looking at the history of Lions Packers, it's not kind to the Lions overall. However, last 7 matchups, Lions are 6-1. This is really, we've seen this happen as of late in Lambeau at home. As a matter of fact, the last Packers win against the Lions was in Detroit. So Detroit's won 3 consecutive in Green Bay. I really just think Detroit's defense is more complete while healthy. And I think the offense is more complete too. I think the Lions have a little more star power offensively. Really, I think the Packers' biggest offensive weakness is they're good and they're not great.
Yeah. The receiving core is just good.
Their receiving core is just so overwhelmingly good.
It's no one's.
But no one,
Okay.
yeah, like just disgustingly okay. I have a lot of guys that's like, yeah, he's going to catch passes. He's going to be good. He can maybe get you 50 to 75 yards a game. They got 6 of those guys. But at the end of the day, in big-time matchups, you want big-time players. And I'm not sure if the Packers have that the same way the Lions do right now. Obviously, I think long-term, there's going to be some regression with the Lions losing both coordinators. That being said, their defensive replacement, Kelvin Shepard, worked directly under Aaron Glenn, and John Morton has worked with Ben Johnson. So they're kind of tapping into the same well, even if it's a different name. Yeah, I think there will be some regression with the Lions, just big names walking out the door. But overall, I think they'll be fine, and I'm picking them to win this game week 1.
Should be a good week of football, though.
It should be a great week
A
of football.
lot of good games in the NFL.
I gotta watch Drake May on Sunday. So happy.
Reese, I'll leave that to you.
Oh, you know what? Hey, that's all you.
That's all you, big man.
If you want to support your Patriots against the Las Vegas Raiders, I'll let you do that. I'll let you do that.
Have fun. You have fun with that.
You have a lot of fun with that. That's everything we have for this week, unless you guys got anything else before we go.
I don't have anything to add.
Drake May.
Drake May. All right. Thanks for listening to this week, and tune in next Thursday for another episode.